So in my last video, I was playing on the Radical Red server for Pokemon Showdown, and in the video I believe I said that 3.0 of Radical Red was just released, and we were testing out some of the newer Pokemon. Since that video, a lot has happened on that server as Radical Red Championships was just announced, and the draft went live. When I saw this, I knew it was the perfect chance for me to get some internet clout, so I signed up immediately. The way it was set up is that there would be 4 formats that would be played: OU, both 3.0 and 2.3, as well as 3.0's current UU and Ubers. 4 coaches would be chosen based on who was in the draft, and they would then select teammates from the remaining players, leading to a total of 6 members and a sub. Now, if you know anything about me, which you probably don't, you'd know I only play Monotype regularly. But fortunately, I had a plan. I would get good. I figured out no matter what, OU was gonna suck, so I figured either Ubers or UU would be the format that I played. And as the Ubers ladder was never active, UU was my best shot. I practiced for the following week, queuing into ladder, battling over and over, editing my team ever so slightly whenever I realized a flaw. At some point during this, there was even a room tournament that I actually won using my finalized team, showing my growth. Granted, I only won through sheer luck and confusing my opponents, but luck is a skill, so it still counts. Finally, drafts were closed, and the coaches were about to be announced. My plan was to become a coach, then select my friends that I essentially forced to be in the tournament to be on my team. So when the coaches were revealed, I wasn't one. Instead, it was Michael, Trico, Gold Hunter, and the counter teamer. Alright. When asked about the coaches, Skip Yo, the council member running the tournament, said that nobody in the draft wanted to be coached, so he just chose the default options. Now, we all know that isn't true, and the real reason I didn't get picked as coach is because I don't have enough clout. So to help me become coach next time one of these things happen, I need you to subscribe, please. I'm so close to 10 million subscribers, perhaps one day the mods will no longer ignore me. Anyway, not all hope was lost, as I came up with a backup plan to try and work around this. Of the 4 coaches, I was the most familiar with the counter teamer, so when drafts started, I would just ask him to get me and my friends onto the same team. It was a far shot, but I believed in my just incredible social skills and charisma. And of course, when it came time to draft, he was nowhere to be found. Dude was gone the whole day, and when he did come back, me and my friends were already gone. This is why you don't make plans that rely on people. If they can possibly disappoint you, they will. Regardless, I was now in the tournament, in a team with a few people I was unfamiliar with, sure, but in nonetheless. I rounded the team together and we began to determine who would play what. We needed a player for Ubers, a player for UU, a player for OU 2.3, as well as 3 players playing OU 3.0. This was it. This was my moment to show all of my progress in training in UU. I had waited for this very moment. This was my moment. I got put into Ubers. Yeah, this is probably what I get for making those one of the 2 options for me, but I wasn't just gonna force myself onto UU. That would have just been mean. So I now had to practice Uber. My Uber training was pretty much the same as my UU training, just compressed to a single day and without ladder because it was still very dead. I had no time for this, we needed to go. Anyways, the matchups were announced, and it was as follows. The Paragon Porygons, the counter teamer's team, versus Michael Oxlong, Michael's team, and the Lavender Town Gengars, Trico's team, versus Infestation Nation, Gold's team. Yeah, I can see why I was picked for this team. Just so you know, I'm never gonna pronounce those names again. No. Remember those names well, because I'm not going to be pronouncing them again. I also realized I was gonna have the hardest time of anyone on my team, as on Trico's team, there is the one player who plays Ubers. Seriously, look at this, it's not even close, what is this? Anyway, the tournament had begun, and so the following is a recap of what happened in the first week. Alright, so I'm going to mention real quick that I'm going to go through these battles in order of when they happened for their side of the tournament. As if I went in order of when they actually happened, I'd be jumping back and forth a lot. It'd be confusing, as if this tournament wasn't confusing enough. So anyways, this is the first battle of the tournament between Ray and Primal. On a first glance, it looks like Ray should have the advantage, since Melmetal pretty much destroys about half the Pokemon here. Crobat, Terrakion, Altaria, Mamoswine, all these guys take a lot of damage from it. I'm pretty sure if it has Thunder Punch as well, Slowbro isn't going to really like that either. So when we get into the lead, it's Tauros versus Mineshout. Tauros of course switches out. So does Mineshout using U-turn, and he brings in Melmetal. Slowbro comes out, and he misses a Toxic. I don't know if that's good or not. He hits Toxic anyway, so it doesn't matter. A bit later, he switches in Mamoswine to try and get an Earthquake off, I assume. No. He goes for Rock Slide. Maybe he was predicting the switch. So Rotom comes out, takes the Rock Slide, switches in Slowking, who switches out again since it got crit. Rotom just dies here. And that really sucks, because if Melmetal could not have taken out Slowbro, then his best choice would have been Rotom. But it's not an entire loss, that's a 1 out of 6 Mon. It's not completely impossible. Here, Primal Ace uses Nasty Plot on Crobat on Melmetal, which is a bit of a strange choice. Terrakion comes out, does close combat, Melmetal tanks it like a beast, and takes out Terrakion. So Tauros comes out, and he goes and uses Fire Blast. Now this is truly a Generation 1 Pokemon, because if this Pokemon came out today, they would not be getting all this. They would get all normal type moves, maybe a few dark type. It's also a mixed set, I should probably mention that. Ray brings out Melmetal on Altaria, who you can't really do anything since he's slower, so he just dies to a crit Flamethrower. The crit definitely mattered there. Altaria comes out and starts using Hyper Voice on Slowbro here, who dies, unfortunately. Primal brings in Mamoswine, and for some reason Ray switches in Zarude. I'm not entirely sure why, but he just dies. He tries to use High Jump Kick on the Mamoswine, but it doesn't really work out. Altaria comes out, takes a Hyper Voice, which is boosted by Pixelate, and he just gets destroyed by Tauros for some reason. This is sad. So yeah, as you figure, the first match, Ray actually loses to Primal Ace. Big shock, actually. And instead of attacking, he just decides to Roost spam. So with that, the first battle's done, and the first point goes to the counter-teamer. Alright, here we have our first OU game. It's between Michael, the leader of, well, Team Michael, and Gladiator Kraken. So Kraken here is actually using an Ice Hail team for some reason. It's fine in OU, I guess, but it's not exactly the best weather to be using. Meanwhile, here, Michael is actually using Milotic, which doesn't appear here because I don't have the right URL. That's my mistake. Alright, there you go, you can see it. It's a ground fairy type Pokemon with insane Bolt, and I'm assuming Michael's gonna win here. So he leads Charizard and Arcanine, switches out because Arcanine can use a Cellar By the way, Arcanine is here as well. Should probably have noticed that sooner. Stealth Rocks kinda suck for this guy, as half of his team is weak to Stealth Rocks. Missing Hypnosis also doesn't help, yeah. Arctozolt comes out, and I think he actually goes for Icicle Crash, predicting the Milotic switch. And then he goes for Bolt Beak here, predicting the Tapu Fini switch. Dude's getting clowned on. But it all comes to an end when Charizard comes out and makes Sun come out. Flare Blitz did a whole lot there. Now, I'm not sure why he switched out. He could have taken out Dragapult here. But alright, Hail is up. And now Sun is up. Don't know what the plan was there. Once again, he switches out on Milotic. A switch that really should not have happened, but he does it anyways. Urshifu comes out. He can't really do anything to Charizard thanks to Sun. So, Arcanine gets destroyed by Solar Beam. And the battle's pretty much over. Michael has won. Round 3, and what we've got here is a bit of 2.3 OU. The main difference is that those special Pokemon that we saw in the last match don't exist yet, so this battle is going to be slightly different. It's between Awala. I'm going to pretend I don't know that guy's name. And Malarkey. Off the bat,
Do brings out Tapu Lele. Switches out to Corviknight for some reason. Yep, Victini comes out. Who uses Thunder on Alomomola. Who would have thought that a team weak to electric moves would be attacked by electric moves? So. Tauros is destroying with these head charges. That was a lot of damage. Tauros did a whole lot against Komao, but unfortunately loses to Body Press. Kingler comes out. You can't see him because I forgot to change the URL again. He uses, what was that? Ice Hammer. His ability is Tough Claws, and he looks like the Dynamax form of Kingler. So this thing has like 350 speed. Once again, you can't see it. Gets outsped by Coco here, but Landorus comes out to try and deal with that. Kingler comes out again. Switches Landorus again. There's a lot of switching going on with this guy. Basically, what's going on here is that Awa here is having an issue with Tangrowth, so he has to force him out somehow. Of course, it seems like Malarkey's not having any of that malarkey. So at this point, the battle's pretty much over. Yeah, he just forfeits. So that actually is another point for Michael, by the looks of it. Yeah, alright. Not good for the counter-teamer, but hey, they could always turn it around. It's a best out of 6, so theoretically, they can still get 4 wins back-to-back, to-back-to-back. Game 4, we have Frozen versus Guy. Now, this battle certainly was the most interesting to watch live, as by the looks of it, Guy actually has most of the advantage since most of this team can't really do anything to like Zapdos or Rillaboom. But, you know what, that may be my own opinion. So let's quickly get into the match a bit. He leads Dodrio on Rillaboom, a really good matchup for Dodrio actually, who is a unique Pokemon here, the Sevian form, which becomes Fire Ground. It just is an absurdly powerful Pokemon. So Guy does the right thing here, switches in Scizor on Kyurem, but he gets frozen, which isn't actually a bad thing. It works like Frostbite, like in Legends Arceus. So it's not all bad. In fact, it's better than being burnt. So what Scizor decides to do here, he sets up on Landorus, or really on Rillaboom. No, Kyurem, sorry. He sets up on Kyurem, Landorus comes out, so he tries to get a knockoff. Eventually he goes for Kyurem, and Guy switches back to Scizor. Now, what he should have done here was Roost to make sure Scizor was at full health. Instead he goes for Swords Dance, which doesn't make sense since he still has his full team. He's going to switch out of Kyurem each time Scizor comes out. But that's fine. He just switches out, Toxapex used Haze, whatever. Moving forward a bit, he switches in Zapdos on Landorus' U-turn, forcing him to switch to Scizor. Kyurem probably saw that coming, decides to go for Substitute. And for some reason, he goes for Swords Dance again on Scizor. I don't know what Guy's thinking at this point. He's making himself a clown by just by doing that each time. He actually attacks for the first time. Well, second, who knows. But it's on Landorus, who just tanks attacks anyways. And at this point, he should have roosted. Instead, what he does is Swords Dance. I don't know what this guy is thinking. Maybe he thinks Scizor is a lot bulkier than it actually is, which, you know, it is bulky. Alright, I'll give it that. It is very bulky. It's not bulky enough to where you can just take special hits non-stop from Kyurem. Anyways, Lopunny comes out, starts making a fool out of his team for a bit, then Kyurem comes back. Big surprise. What's he gonna do? You guessed it, he switches Scizor. Now at this point, Scizor isn't even in good health anymore. He's too slow to really out-roost Kyurem, so he just dies. What he should have done is switch in Heatran to take the Flame, the Frost move, Ice move, Freeze Dry, that's it. and then switch to Landorus to take the Earth Power or something. Just Sizzler could not be switched in over and over without roosting. And while that's not the specific thing that kind of ruins him in this battle, I'd like to say that was like the first step of 20 stairs that ruined him. It's like watching an old man fall down the stairs. Dodrio comes out, does a whole lot of damage to Landorus, didn't see that coming. Almost dies to Grassy Glide, but manages to take out Rillaboom with a crit. At this point, the battle's pretty much over. Kyurem goes for Substitute. Roosts off the damage, because that's just what it does. Guy eventually forfeits, and that actually gets the Counter Teamer his second point. So once again, Michael and Counter Teamer are tied up, 2 for 2. There's 2 battles remaining, meaning theoretically they can end up tied and then have to go for a tiebreaker round. I don't know how the tiebreaker round exactly works because that's yet to happen in the tournament, but at the same time, if the Counter Teamer wins the next 2 battles, Michael just flat out loses and goes to the loser bracket. So yeah, all hope isn't lost for the Counter Teamer. This is the 5th battle of the tournament, and what we've got here is OU. Now, I don't know what's going on with this team. What is this? Dodrio. Once again, we have a Dodrio. Now, already that's a bit of a questionable choice, especially on this team, but dude also has Ninjask and Floatzel. Both of them get slightly better in Radical Red. This guy gets a unique move that deals more damage the faster it is over at the opponent. Sonic Slash, I think it's called. And Floatzel gets Technician boosted Surging Strikes. Sounds good. It's not, though. Volcarona lead on Tapu Fini. In actuality, Volcarona can set up on Tapu Fini if it doesn't have Haze. Latias takes a whole lot of U-turn damage there. Now, for some reason, he switches in Floatzel to do Focus Punch on Latias. And it works, I guess. It doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but it does something. Gliscor stays in on Tapu Fini to use Defog, taking a lot of damage in return. They both switch out to Grass types. Rillaboom just destroys Ferrothorn here with Drain Punch. And rocks are back up. Congrats. Now, unfortunately, Rillaboom actually gets burned here, thanks to Flame Body on Volcarona. Now, I guess Razor figured out that he could just set up on Tapu Fini. But it turns out Tapu Fini has Haze, so Volcarona actually loses this matchup. I don't think Tapu Fini uses Haze normally, thanks to Razor's reaction here. So Latias is here setting up on Gliscor while it's setting up Rocks and Spikes. That's not good for either of them. Eventually Latias gets so strong that I'm pretty sure H just loses to Latias entirely. Here comes Floatzel. Oh, he's actually dealing damage. Would you look at that? Surging Strikes Floatzel does something. Once again, the battle's pretty much over at this point. Ferrothorn is just walling this guy's entire team. It's on 8 HP and it's surviving attacks. I don't know how. It just is. Volcarona comes out. You see Floatzel do Surging Strike on it. Now Volcarona is the master of final laughs, because it manages to burn Floatzel. So this guy's got 2 physical attacking Pokemon that are burned. Yeah, he's not winning. So with that, Michael is now up 3-2 on the Counter Teamer, meaning at best the Counter Teamer can tie. So this last battle matters a whole lot. And this last battle is actually between the Counter Teamer himself, as well as one of Michael's teammates, Shadow Time. Now, it's an Uber's battle, so you've obviously got to have Uber's Pokemon. Zoroark is here to cause shenanigans, I guess, with Illusion. But there's also an Amorous, who is an MVP for reasons you'll soon find out. On top of that, we've also got what looks entirely like a Trick Room team. Now, Shadow Time gets unfortunate because Hatterene just dies to Dark Hole. And an Amorous comes out to just try and set up and use its contrary Floor Cannon to just wipe this guy's team. Now, Trick Room actually seems to be working pretty well for Shadow Time here. He uses Glacial Lance. It takes away half of Necrozma's health. That's insane. He switches to Darmanitan to take Glacial Lance, but again, it's a whole lot of damage. He tries to take out Calyrex here with U-turn. Doesn't do enough, and Trick Room is back up. Fortunately, Necrozma actually survives the second Glacial Lance. It must have been a high roll and then a low roll Glacial Lance. But, yikes. Darmanitan dies. It's Trick Room right now. So Groudon is slower, meaning he's actually faster. And he's just doing as much damage as he can do. Yveltal goes down to Eruption. And Amorous comes out, uses Floor Cannon, but it's not enough, and dies to Eruption itself. Groudon decides to come out. Wait, it uses Nasty Plot. Big reveal, it's actually Zoroark. Yeah. So it takes out the Groudon. Audino comes out. Dude takes a +2 critical hit Hyper Voice like it was nothing, and sets up Trick Room. That basically ended the match there, just being able to set up Trick Room. As thanks to that, Kyogre could just use Ice Beam on Groudon. It's actually base form Kyogre, which is wild. So he just uses Ice Beam for the last few turns, taking out both Zoroark and Groudon. And that also means, with a score of 4-2, Michael has won the first round of the tournament. Now, frankly, I wasn't surprised. The Counter-Teamers team was basically patchworked together from players in the Discord lobby, because, one, the Counter-Teamer was late, actually, trying to announce what players were playing what format. Not only that, but half his players didn't even respond, so Scipio had to go around getting players from the lobby so that he can actually play in the tournament. So yeah, when half your team is basically brought together on a whim within like 30 seconds before the tournament starting, yeah, I don't think it's going to turn out good. Moving on, we've got ourselves the first battle between Gold Hunter and Trico, and actually, Trico is in the first battle. Here we have Air Slash trying to take on Trico in 2.3 OU. Now, from what I know of Trico, and he's been here longer than I have, he's actually really good at OU. Dragapult and Weavile lead. Dragapult is not looking good. Actually uses Flamethrower, which is surprising, but Heatran comes out to tank it. Now, the two ground types were just stalling each other out. One of them had to switch, and Air Slash decides to take advantage of that situation. So, we've got Rillaboom. Heatran comes out. Rillaboom uses Swords Dance, so now it's just an absurd attacker. Heatran is obviously dead. It's just gone. It stopped existing as soon as it used Swords Dance. Kingler seems to be doing fine for himself, until Dreadnought comes out. Dreadnought uses Jaw Lock again. For the last time, he gets paralyzed. That just sucks. Trico's really doing their best. Currently we're on turn 23 and it's down 5-5. Scratch that 5-4. Trico actually losing here. Heatran actually, I think he's taken out Dreadnought here because of the paralysis. That's just unfortunate. So Dragapult comes out and starts using Shadow Ball. It deals more than half of their health, but at the same time Gliscor can roost that damage off thanks to Toxic Heal, or Poison Heal. Eventually Dragapult goes down to Gliscor's Earthquake and just dies to Kingler's attack. Battle's pretty much over by the looks of it. He just has to tank attacks, recover whenever he can, and slowly chip away at these two Pokemon. And with that, that's the end of the first battle between the Trico and Gold Hunter. First point goes to Gold Hunter, meaning the Infestation Nation is in the lead. Hooray. Second battle of the tournament, and hey, would you look at that? I'm in it. Bugmaster DZ. Like, comment, and subscribe. We both have pretty standard Uber team. Well, I have Galvantula, but that's neither here nor there. I want you to pay attention to this Enamorous. The battle's gonna end very fast, and you'll know why. So, I should probably explain my thought process here. I lead Yveltal because I know he's gonna go Deoxys first off. I don't have Dark Hole on Yveltal, so I just use U-turn. Galvantula switch in because I wanted to set up webs, but I'm an idiot. He just dies to rocks. So now, Deoxys is just setting up on Yveltal. And I take it out, but there's rocks. And does that matter? Maybe. Maybe not. It is a bit annoying though. So, Marshadow comes out, does a whole lot to Dialga. Primal, by the way, because this is Radical Red, and that's allowed. And he gets taken out by Floor Cannon and Amorous. He uses Earth Power on Necrozma, didn't expect that, oh well. And now he's just sweeping through the rest of my team. There's nothing I can really do. Now, right here, my Enamorous is actually heavy-duty boots, bulky for some reason. Like, it's max HP special attack, I think. So obviously I'm not going to be speed tying with this thing, let alone outspeeding it. So of course he gets taken out, or she gets taken out by +4, +3 Floor Cannon. And Yveltal Sucker Punch, but it doesn't really do a whole lot. Battle's over. 10 turns. Saddest thing I've seen all day. So alright, it's 1-for-1 between the two teams. It's not an entire loss, we can still pull through here. We have someone versus Velcroc, who, I should mention, took the longest to get to the team chat that I set up. I'm not really sure where he is half the time. Regardless, this is the battle. Gastrodon lead on Heatran. Goes for Skull. Does he get the burn? He does. Meaning Zapdos now can't do much physical attacking. Which, you know, Zapdos is known for. Scizor switches in on Weavile, who uses Knockoff. It was a critical hit, which is also boosted by its Dark Gem that it had. A whole lot of damage. Scizor just roosted it off, though, like it was nothing. Looking at the teams, it seems like someone's team is a bit more defensive than Velcroc's. And Velcroc doesn't really have much recovery for their Pokemon. There's Regenerator on Toxapex, Roost on Scizor and Zapdos, but overall there's not really much he can do to tank attacks from someone. A whole lot of nothing happens for another 40 turns, and here we have Garchomp on Corviknight. Yes, Shedshell. Okay. Garchomp goes for Fire Fang, Corviknight doesn't care. So, of course, he goes for Swords Dance. Alright. Seems like Velcroc has a bit of an advantage here. Scizor comes in on Weavile, who then switches to Melmetal. Totally interesting stuff here going on. Oh, you try to paralyze the Scizor? Psych! Toxapex was already paralyzed, fool. Now, he really tried to get the burn there with that Scald. Unfortunately, Gastrodon just tanks water moves, so can't really do anything about that. Velcroc's doing his best to try and get any sort of advantage here. It's been 64 turns. A tiring amount of turns, but nothing bad. While he's getting some headway in some places, the problem is his team is just getting chipped down a lot more than someone's. So eventually, stuff like this is going to happen, and then your team just falls apart. Because now, without Scizor, he has no way of really hitting Clefable. Greninja goes for Hydro Pump here. Actually misses on Clefable, that just sucks. Because I believe that would have killed it. Maybe he would have had a chance. No, he wouldn't have had a chance, but it would have been a little bit of hope for something. But yeah, no, the battle's already over. Weavile comes out and uses Triple Axle. And that's another point for Trico, meaning my team is now down, I'm sorry, how many was it? 2-1. Here we are in the 4th battle, and we can turn this around. But when you bring a team like this, I'm pretty sure most of these Pokemon are Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay. So, right here, the battle's already determined. Because Aerodactyl kind of destroys half the Pokemon here. It's super effective against Thundurus, Heracross, Ribombee, and Serperior. It's neutral to Tapu Lele, and with an attack stat of, I think, 123, it's going to be doing a lot of damage. Meaning, the only Pokemon that could probably deal with this is Bisharp with, like, Sucker Punch or something. But he has Magnezone, and you're actually going to see in a sec. he switches in Bisharp after Rabambi dies. Magnezone comes in, traps Bisharp. Guess what? He can't do any damage to Magnezone and gets taken out by... Well, that did a whole lot of damage. Almost actually kills it. But it just gets taken out by Thunderbolt regardless. Now, going back to the beginning of the battle here, breaking my format a bit, what he could have done here was paralyze Aerodactyl. So that way, even if Bisharp had died, he would still be able to take down Aerodactyl because its speed would be halved, and it already has like an absurd speed stat. Like, hold on. Mega Evolve. It has 438 in its speed stat. Now, I looked at it, and of all the Pokemon available in OU, only 2 Pokemon are faster than that. Those 2 Pokemon being Regieleki, who, yeah, could have worked here, or Ninjask, which is Ninjask. So paralyzing it would have helped, would have brought it down to like, I don't know, 200 something in speed. And I'm actually going to fast forward through the battle a bit, because it goes about as well as you think. Superior tries to set up on Magnezone, actually gets their special attack up. Aerodactyl just takes them out. He switches to Milotic here for a bit. And Tapu Lele's holding their own against them for a bit. Milotic has Serene Grace here, which is why they're losing their special attack rapidly whenever they use Moonblast. But it seems like Milotic is actually winning out in the battle here, since Tapu Lele doesn't really have any recovery. But it does go down. Aerodactyl just kills it. He switches to Heracross to tank a Stone Edge. Doesn't though. Switches in Thundurus. Stone Edge kills it. The battle's over. How many turns was that? It was 21 turns. Not as bad as my battle, fortunately. But still pretty bad, since that now means we're down 3-1. And at best, we can just tie. This is the next battle, and it's between Char and our team leader, Cliffheart, who is Gold Hunter. That's a Levani in the maid outfit. Anyways, if we look here, we have a defensive team versus a slightly defensive team. Or mostly defensive. There's Altaria and Crocodile, but the rest are mostly defensive Pokemon. I'm also going to speed through this one a bit, because I can just sense this is going to take a long time. And I've got to edit down this like hour-long clip anyways, so I'm just going to take what liberties I can. Essentially what's going on here is that this is a UU battle, so sand is allowed. Other weather, such as sun and rain, aren't. Hail and sand are though, so there's that. And I guess he's just trying to get whatever chip damage he can. Toxic, Scald, Sandstorm, whatever he can, he will do. He also has a Stealth Rock that he used on Hippowdon at some point. But I guess it got removed by Altaria or something. Doesn't matter. So yeah, Char is just tanking attacks while doing a lot of damage over time. We're now at turn 42 here. It's actually not that long of a battle compared to the last one. All he has left is Slowbro, so he forfeits, and that's the battle. Now, with that battle, we've lost 4-1, meaning we get put in the loser's bracket with the counter-teamer. I believe this is also the second to last battle of the tournament. The last battle of the tournament was between the counter-teamer and whoever they were up against. Now, my thoughts for the first week of the tournament, it went well for the most part. I didn't know anything about Ubers, and I built an Ubers team and got wiped immediately. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of saw that coming. But regardless of how that went, in week 2 we're on the loser's bracket, meaning there's still a chance we can win through this tournament. We just need to win our next couple of battles, otherwise we get kicked out permanently. What fun. So there's the end of the first week of Radical Red Championships. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see the next couple of weeks of this, or if you want to see the rest of my content, there's also that. And yeah, I'll see you next week.